Hello and good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Elizabeth, and this is my YouTube channel called Old School and Eclectic Crafts. It is where I like to go for all of my Etsy-based information for my Etsy shop called Old School and Eclectic. However, because my Etsy shop's been really slow recently, today I'm working on a personal project where I'm going to finally... I've been married for 5 years, and I'm finally putting together my wedding photo album. Basically, I lost my wedding photos. Sorry, I'm really shaking the camera. I lost my wedding photos for most of those 5 years. I thought I knew where they were, but that's not where they were at, unfortunately. So I do have my photo album. It's not a wedding album specifically. The reason why I chose this one, let me see. Let's do that. The reason I chose this particular album, even though it's not like a really cute, fancy wedding photo album, is because of one particular facet of it. It has photo slots and then a spot to write notes. And I looked all over the place to find a photo album that had that feature. And the reason I did that is because this was also our sign-in book. When people would come in at the wedding or the reception, we ended up having, I guess one would be considered an open house, one would be considered an actual reception, though I don't know which one would be considered which, either way. But when people would come in to the reception or the open house, they would get their photo taken at, I guess you call it a photo booth, but it was a nice setup where my brother, who was our photographer, he would then take their family photo. And then they would sign in on the next open slot in the photo book. And now that I finally have the photos printed, I can then match those photos with their slot. I was feeling very clever when I came up with this idea. So that way we don't just have a book of names. We have photos that then go with the names. See? It works. Except it took me 5 years to do. So, like I said, I'm working on this because I don't have really any Etsy stuff to do. And you might say, well, then you need to work harder on your Etsy stuff, and then you'll get sales. You need to work on marketing and all that sort of stuff. If I'm going to get a sale, I'm going to get a sale. If not, I'm not that concerned. Like, doing Etsy for me at this point is a hobby. Like, I love doing it, and I love being able to make things, and I love selling things that I make to people who want. Oh, these are all the photos. There's 200 of them. I love making stuff and selling it. But ultimately, it is not a big money maker. And so therefore, I am not extremely concerned because it gives me a break. It gives me time to work on other things, catch up on other projects. Yeah, this is all my photos. And there's one of each. It's not duplicates or anything like that. This is all the wedding photos, plus a couple of extras from the invites. Weird. Hopefully all of them are here. I have not looked at these, so they're in absolutely no particular order. So I'm sorry if you're here for today's live stream looking for Etsy behind the scenes stuff. Honestly, this is my behind the scenes where when I'm not working on Etsy stuff, I have all sorts of other personal projects. And today that is finally completing this one. So we're going to work on it. So I said that I had lost my photos. The way I got them back was, well, my brother was my photographer. And so he actually has the file with all of our photos. So we went to a big family gathering this past weekend. One of my nieces was getting baptized. So everyone got together. We got all new family photos and everyone got together. And so he handed off a USB to me with all 200 plus photos of the wedding. So I'm finally going to print out. I just finished also brain fart. I also just finished putting together our photo books. Something that each of my siblings, I'm one of 6 kids, by the way, and one of the things that each couple, as they've gotten married, or each of my siblings, as they've gotten married, has done, is they have put together some sort of photo book. None of them look the same. They're all different styles and formats. So they're each unique and special. And I just finished putting together ours, finally. I'm doing sorting. Like I said, there's 200 of these, so I kind of sort them. I guess I should probably start with like a basic. Sorry, I just brain farted again. I started going on a tangent and then it just went out of my head. I will show you some of these photos, but most of them I don't have permission from people to show their face on YouTube. So I won't be showing you a whole lot of them, but some of them I will. So there's basically there's 4 groups of photos that I'm going through, which my brother very helpfully organized for me when he was editing and putting together all my photos. And they are the first reception, which we did the night before our wedding. There's the actual wedding photos, like after the ceremony, which include all the family photos. Then there's all the guest photos from both of my receptions that are just basically group photos of all the different people who came to the weddings or to the receptions. And then there's the second reception, which happened a week after the wedding, after we got back from our honeymoon. I just realized that this photo, I thought it looked really good, but come to find out my husband's making like a face. I think he's probably laughing at one of his brothers. But I do have permission from my husband to show him. So I asked him like 3 times, like, are you sure? Are you sure? So I do have his permission. So there's that one. This one's kind of dark. Where we were taking photos for this spot where we came out of the temple was really, really dark. Like it was just super shaded. The day we got married at like 10 a.m. And so it was early in the morning. It was cloudy. It was dark out. And then we came out a door that was covered in trees and shade. And so it was just really dark. So some of those first photos when we first came out are very, very dark. As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, my husband and I chose to get married in one of our temples, which we believe are holy places dedicated to God. They're basically the house of God. And in those temples, we believe that we are married or sealed for not just till death do you part, but for all time and eternity. So even after death, we'll still be married and we'll still be together. So we got married at what's called the Mount Timpanogos Temple out in Utah. We did not live in Utah. We were not moving to Utah. We just wanted to be near family. That's where all of our extended family on both sides, all of our aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, my husband's siblings, they're all out in Utah. And so we decided to go out to Utah for our wedding, because we would be where our grandparents and our aunts and uncles, cousins, and everybody else could come and join us. So that's why we did the way we did. This one photo is not, the photos are basically sorted, like they're kind of in order from the files, but this one is definitely not. This one is from the morning after our second reception, which was in Nebraska, which is where we were living. This was the morning after, when we were opening up all the gifts that we'd received in Nebraska. Yeah, it's really random. Like, it doesn't go with any of the groups of photos that's next to you. But so we got married out in Utah, but we're living in Nebraska. And yeah, we traveled all the way out there. So the way our wedding went was we did I guess we did a dinner. First, we did a dinner for like all the family, which I don't remember. I don't remember doing a dinner. And I mean, there's no photos from the dinner, which makes me even more confused. Like, I do not remember this at all. But I have this little invite that was put into all the families' invites that is inviting everybody to a dinner the night of the first reception out in Utah. But I don't remember this. Yeah, I don't remember this. If anybody of my family or friends has photos from that dinner, I would love to see them, because I don't remember this. I wouldn't even have known that it ever happened if I didn't have this right here. Like, I have no idea. Not a clue. But so we did a dinner, I guess. And then, sorry, more mixed up photos. We did a dinner. And then we did the reception or the open house. Again, I don't know what you would call which one. Yeah. But we then did the open house or wedding before the wedding. So there was the dinner the night before. Then there was the reception where all my families and friends came. Family's friends, my husband's family and friends all came for a big reception where there was no big moment like a first reveal or anything where my husband saw me. I just walked across the street from my grandpa lives across the street from one of our churches where we did the reception, which was free, which is why we did it. And I just got ready at my grandpa's house with the help of my maid of honor. I didn't have like the traditional bridesmaids, maids of honor. My husband didn't have any groomsmen. Like there was none of that traditional stuff. We did things really our own way. But she was technically my maid of honor. And she was like saved me. She did my hair. I did my own makeup. My grandma steamed my dress, which I've actually talked about that in a previous live stream about how my grandma loves ironing and did my dress for me, which I'm still super grateful for. So I got ready, and then eventually my dress showed up when my grandma got there with my dress. And I just got ready, and then my maid of honor went and fetched my husband from the church where he was hanging out, already dressed in his uniform. And then he came out, and I walked across the street, and we met on the sidewalk, and we walked in together. There was no photos. There was no fanfare. It was just, we walked in together. So this is the moment when we walked in together. Now, what y'all don't know is that my husband and I, in the week leading up to our wedding, first of all, we had to drive cross country to get from Nebraska to Utah. Like we drove that with my family, and we had been bedridden, ill. We were so sick for the entire week leading up to our wedding. So here in this photo, I don't know if you can tell, we're still not feeling great. Let's see here. We were so sick. Yeah. We were getting better by the time that we got there for the reception and the actual wedding, but we were very, very ill. I think we just had like really bad flus or cold or something, but we were not doing well. You know what, maybe I will label each of these after the live stream because I keep getting distracted and I can't think straight for what I want to write. But so there's that, and I'm actually going to put this, the very first slot, I actually thought to have us sign our names so that way I could have our photo be the first photo in the album. So we did the dinner, the reception, or the open house, I don't know. And then that was the end of that night, by the way, because we also chose to do everything dry. There was no alcohol. So no one was getting drunk. No one was causing a ruckus. There was no alcohol. The next morning, we all went to, we being my family and me, Drew and I, we all went to one of his aunt's houses, which was bigger. They had a huge yard, and they had it all set up for a breakfast, where we did a huge family breakfast, which there's no photos from that either. So if any of my family or friends has photos from that breakfast, I'd love it. The only photos I have are from us, are of us opening gifts. Which this is just us opening gifts, this whole stack from that one breakfast. But so that's us. We opened gifts, and we had the breakfast, and then everybody left to go, if they were going to be coming to the temple, and being in the temple for the ceremony, they had to go and get changed or get dressed or whatever, and we had to get ready. So my husband and I, we got all ready again. My maid of honor did my hair again. I did my own makeup. My dress was still in great shape from the night before, and because I didn't really eat anything. By the way, for our cake, we had like one sheet cake that someone made. I don't even know who made it, which I don't remember who made it. But I know I have a photo of it somewhere. But By the way, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. That was our cake. It was really, really small. There wasn't much to it. And the temple on top, or the topper, is a 3D printed version of the Mount Timpanogos temple, which is where we were married. So there was the cake. I have no idea if it was any good. I barely remember it because I had my own tray of brownies. I am gluten-free and dairy-free. I've actually started going back to eating wheat, though it's been like 12 years. But at the time, I was gluten-free and dairy-free, and so I had a very specific diet. And so everyone else had their cake, and I had a tray of brownies because I love brownies. So like I had a chair in the gym where we were doing our reception, and I hid my brownies under my chair. There's so many photos. This is all the guests. This is all the photos of all the guests that were there. I guess this is probably from the back. But let's see here. That was the cake. Sorry, I keep acting like I'm going to tell you the order of how things went, but then I keep going off on tangents. So we did the breakfast and the gift opening, and then everyone went to go get ready. And then we went to the temple and we did the ceremony, which consisted of just immediate parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles. Cousins weren't originally invited, but some did come. That was fine. There was plenty of seats. We didn't think there would be enough seats, which is why we didn't actually invite cousins, but it was fine. If any of my cousins watched us that were there, it was fine. Then after the ceremony, we came out, and anyone who hadn't gone in for the ceremony and was still there, which there really wasn't anyone. There was like the kids. You have to be, in order to be able to be at the ceremony in one of our temples, you have to be, you have to have what's called a recommend, which means that says that you have basically passed an interview where you are living according to God's laws and you are being a good person and are therefore worthy to enter the temple or the house of the Lord. And anyone can enter the house of the Lord as long as they are living according to God's laws and can pass that interview. So the temple's not some big secret. It's just sacred. But the little kids couldn't come in because the temple is very sacred and kids are kind of rambunctious. And you can't enter the temple until you're 12, but then the actual ceremony, generally you're 18 or older. But so like all the kids were outside and a couple of the other relatives were outside watching the kids. But so we then went out and we did all the photos. There's a couple of photos that I wish we had gotten that we didn't. And I really regret that because we have so much family. I had actually planned out with the photographer, my brother, what photos were going to get taken and in what order. And I was like, I had it all written out. I had informed everybody of like, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this family first and then this, and then we're going to do this. And there was only one photo that we took out of order because one of the grandparents was not feeling well. And so we did their photo first. But that was it. Sorry, my shoulders are locking up and it burns. But yeah, so I basically written out all the photos that we wanted beforehand and like gone over it with my brother, and we figured out what we were going to do. But I didn't think of some of the ones that I was going to want that I didn't get. And I'm hoping that sometime in the future, I will get back down to my wedding weight, which I do believe is actually possible. I just haven't gotten back there yet. Or at least get close to it. So I get back in my wedding dress, and I want to go back to the Mount Timpanogos Temple and do like 10-year anniversary photos with my husband. And I just think it'd be really cute and fun. But obviously that's going to take a lot of work on my part. I've actually lost 35 pounds in the last year, which I'm really proud of. Come on. But as I go through these photos, I occasionally giggle because my flower girl, again, I didn't have a traditional wedding, so I didn't actually technically have a flower girl, but there was one particular niece who kind of became the flower girl, kind of like my best friend ended up being my maid of honor, just by how things went. But this niece of mine, she's on my side of the family, and she was 3 years old, and she thought that she had discovered a princess. I was a princess in her eyes, and she was so excited. That she had found this princess, and she was glued to me because I was this princess and she wanted to be a princess. And so she was just following me around everywhere. And in the family photos, sorry, I don't have a photo for one person, or at least it's missing. I don't know. I don't know if my husband even recognized the name, but then I have this photo that I'm missing. Plus, there's an entire pair of pages that got skipped when people were signing in. Oh, well. But so she kept taking my bouquet. She's like, I want to help the princess. I want to help the princess. And so when I was like walking around talking to people, we didn't do a walkthrough line. My husband and I just went around and talked to people. We also only had finger snacks during the actual reception open house. We didn't have a meal during that. We did the family dinner before, and that was it. But so she kept taking my bouquet. Like I said, my shoulders are on fire. They hurt so bad. There's a note here that my brother, the photographer, wrote, but I don't know what it means. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But so my niece kept taking my bouquet because she wanted to help the princess. She wanted to be helpful. Why are there two? Oh, okay. I didn't actually need to. My brother actually did a pretty good job of removing all of the the mess up photos. So all I have are the nice ones. But for this one family grouping, there is a screw up photo. And I don't know why. In the family photos after the ceremony, that same niece was outside, and she is in almost every photo. almost every photo. Because again, she wanted to help the princess and she wanted to hold the princess's bouquet and her flowers. And so she was just glued to me, and she was in just about every photo. My family, my husband's family, everybody. She's in like every photo. And it is so funny. If there's a photo where I'm not holding my flowers, it's because she's holding my flowers. So it didn't bother me or my family at all. It was just very funny and very cute. Sorry, my funny faces are because I'm in pain. I'm okay. When it came, here's an example of actually one of the, so I'm going through the photos for the guest list. And this is a guest photo where one of my brothers wanted to take the photo with me. And my little niece was like, no, I'm going to be in the photo too. And so she's also in the photo, even though she's not their child. So she just shows up everywhere. The bouquet. Let's see here. My youngest little sister is the one who did all my flowers and like the centerpieces. But my mother-in-law made my bouquet. Like I gave her a color scheme. And I like gave her samples of all my colors. But she then had free reign to use whatever flowers, combinations, whatever she wanted. I didn't really care what kind of flowers they were. I just wanted a bouquet. I gave her like the style and shape that I wanted and told her to go with it. These are the colors. That's the shape. Go for it. So that was his parents, basically kind of their gift to me. A lot of the gifts that I received from family were all service related, where they helped me do something for the wedding. And that was considered their gift for the wedding. Like my brother doing the photos, that was a gift. He didn't give me anything else for my wedding. That was it, though. It was just the photos. And he didn't do the photo book. He didn't do any of the printouts. He just got them, edited them, and handed the digitals to me. So the rest has been up to me. So my mother-in-law made my bouquet. So I showed you the photo of my husband and I walking in the first reception. So we weren't even married at that point. We were just engaged still at that point. We were still like 16 hours away from being married. But I didn't have my flowers in that photo because I hadn't received them yet. And after I walked in, my mother-in-law gave me my bouquet, and I burst into tears because it was so beautiful and I was so excited. That moment was the first time I ever met my mother-in-law or my father-in-law or future mother and father-in-law. I had never met them in person until that moment. I had done a couple of like Skype calls with them at that point as we were doing multiple phone calls as we were getting ready for the wedding and planning things out and talking. But I never actually met them in person. At that point, they didn't live in the country and I couldn't we couldn't go visit them. So I had never met them, which was a little intimidating. Here's an example of an error where one person signed next to a photo spot, but then another person or couple signed in the same slot. So now I'm supposed to fit two photos into one slot, which I'm not going to be able to do. And I haven't quite decided how I'm going to handle that. So I'm just going to put both of those photos in the same slot for now and then deal with it later. So I didn't meet my in-laws until the night before we got married. And Yeah, it was a lot. But they're great. They're good people. Yeah, so my mother-in-law made my bouquet. I still have it. It's really pretty. It's made out of fake flowers because then I could keep it. I wish I could have it on display. I just don't have anywhere to put it at the moment. Plus, it would have gotten really dusty and gross. Come on. The plastic film is just not wanting to pick up at the moment, even though I've already put a photo underneath this film. One thing I would have done differently about this photo book is I would have taken like a pen or something and drawn a line to demarcate where the plastic ends. So like it was clearly visible, like the line where people could write. Because over and over again, people accidentally wrote onto the plastic where, of course, then it doesn't write. And so there's just this ongoing struggle with people versus the plastic for the photos. So that's something I would have done differently was change, or I would have made a line to demarcate where the plastic started. So that way there wasn't that issue. There's been a couple of instances of this where people wrote a note, but they didn't actually sign their name, which is very frustrating. It's very difficult to actually like identify people if they don't actually sign their name. But given that these photos are generally in order, I'm going to assume that this slot is for these people. So I would love to hear, do you have any questions or any stories questions you have for me, stories you want to hear more information about, something that I touched on and then forgot that I was touching on it and went on to something else? Please let me know. Even if you're watching this in the replay, please let me know. I love to tell these stories. I loved my wedding. It was great. I loved the way we did it. Going back to the order of how we did things, so we went to the temple, we got married, we did the photos afterwards, and then everyone went home. That was it. That was the end of the celebrations. There was no weird, awkward, like, oh, now we have to wait 3 hours after the ceremony before like a formal dinner and waiting. Like there was none of that weird, awkward stuff. When you're done with your photos, you left, you went home. That was the end. That was it. All done. And that just got rid of that weird, awkward time. My husband and I, after all the photos were done and after we were done, his parents packed us into the car and we went back to my husband's aunt and uncle's place where we had done the breakfast. That was where all of our clothes and all of our other stuff was. And we got changed. And while we were getting changed, all of our siblings got together and they decorated the vehicle we were going to be leaving in, which was my grandpa's truck. So there was like rules, like you can't do things that might potentially damage it because it's our grandpa's truck. Like be nice to it. I'm missing the photo. Probably in this stack over here. Yep. So someone brought my husband and I pizza to eat before we left, and our getaway truck got decorated in a very traditional manner. She's so cute. And then we left. We made sure that my parents had all the gifts that were given. And we'd already opened them all at the breakfast. And so all the gifts were open. They were more easily transported than if they were still wrapped. This was the truck. My grandpa no longer has this truck, so I'm not concerned about showing you where you might see the license plate because it's not a thing anymore. Most of the decoration was sticky notes. Yeah, it was basically all sticky notes because sticky notes won't ruin anything. Let's see here. That heart there on the back, that lasted the entire trip. So we got married in Utah, and then we drove up to, after we got pizza and got changed, my husband and I then left for our honeymoon, which we drove up to Lava Hot Springs up in Idaho, which was a couple-hour drive to get up there, which was a really nice time to be able to just have me and my husband. It was just us. We were freshly married, able to just be us. We finally got up there about 9 o'clock, got to our hotel. But so we went up to Lava Hot Springs, and because it was fall in Idaho, it was kind of cold. In fact, it was so cold that we ended up going out and buying jackets because it snowed, which we were not expecting. Like, so all we had was like jeans and t-shirt. Like, we did not have warm weather gear. So we actually went out and bought jackets because we were cold. So we basically, because this was hot springs and it was cold and the end of the season, we basically had the entire tourist town just about to ourselves. Like, it was just us. And it was really nice. Lava Hot Springs is a nice, I mean, it's kind of old and it's little, but it was nice. Okay, so I've gotten all the people, and now I'm going to do all some of the families have extra photos where, like, they did the family photo, but then they did extra ones where it was like just the couple, or they did a silly photo, or they wanted to take a photo with me. There's none of them with Drew, my husband, which is really weird. There's actually very few photos of my husband, which again, I feel is weird, but maybe that's just because the photographer was my brother, and so he was more focused on getting photos of me. I don't know. Hi, Winston. My dog is clawing at my leg. He went out and we played before I started doing this live stream, so that way I knew that he was taken care of. Let's see here. What are some other stories from my wedding? When I try and think of the whole thing as a whole. So let's see here. My husband and I went on our honeymoon, which was like 5 days. And then we drove my grandpa's truck back down into Utah because we needed to return it to him. And then we got on a plane and flew home, which didn't go all that great. I'm trying to remember. I think we had a connecting flight. So the first flight was like from Utah. It was from like Salt Lake to Denver, I think. And that one was obviously really, really quick. And my husband and I were sitting next to each other. And then the second flight, which was from Denver to Omaha, was not great. Because we were flying Southwest, we were not able to choose our seats. And though we asked to trade seats with the people next to us, no one would go for it. So we ended up sitting, so he was in the seat right in front of me, and I was sitting next to a man who was already drunk. He was very drunk. And those of you who, I've mentioned that we did a dry wedding. There was no alcohol in any of our celebrations or anything. So I'm not really accustomed to being around people who have been drinking. Yeah, we're just really not accustomed to that. So I finished the guests, and now I'm trying to decide what to do next. Ow. Let's go with the reception first. Let's go timeline-wise. So I'm not used to being around people who are drunk or have been drinking alcohol. And this guy was very drunk, or at least he seemed to be very drunk to me. And it was just so uncomfortable. Like how much he was trying to talk to me, and I don't even remember anything. I just remember being so uncomfortable and a little disgusted and just not wanting to be there. Weird. So there's this one photo of guessing on the silhouette of one of them is my littlest sister and her husband. But this is the closest I've ever gotten to it. Previously, I thought, and I continuously thought, that that was actually one of my older brothers that the photo was of. But now that I see it up close, it is definitely my brother-in-law. Who knew? Which I should have just trusted my brother, the photographer, when he was going through all these photos. He actually labeled each of them as best as he could. And he labeled it with that brother-in-law's name. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. I should have just trusted it. It was right. How awkward. I'm going to pull this back out and show you guys. So this is another photo from when my husband and I were walking into our first reception before we were married, but we're doing the reception. So look at us being all cute. Look at our hands. We're like not quite holding hands, and I don't know why. We're so cute and so awkward. However, look at my husband's face. Looking at me. Oh. He's so cute. I love him. Aww. Here's a photo of just my husband. This looks like an awkward prom photo. Like, yeah, we look really nice, but we look like an awkward prom photo. I love it. Oh, that's my bouquet, by the way. I got my bouquet. There it is. By the way, our colors were magenta, yellow, purple, and orange for the girls. And that was like all the floral stuff. And then for the boys, and for like the secondary colors, was blue and green. So it ended up basically being a rainbow. Like that wasn't our intention, but it's kind of what it ended up being. Hi, did you think I called you? Winston just came running over here like I had just dropped food. You're okay. He's looking so sad. Hi, buddy. So like all the girls, I made hair flowers for all the girls. Here's my photo. It was really pretty. I made hair flowers for all the girls. All the nieces got a little hair clip. Or for like the infants, I made like the headbands with a flower on it. And I loved doing that. I had a lot of fun doing that. So all the girls ended up with flowers of our colors. And then all the guys ended up with ties that were either blue or green. And we told the guys that they needed to learn a new knot. Well, not that they necessarily needed to learn a new one, but we wanted them to tie their ties in a unique fashion. Because my husband loves weird, odd, random things. So he always ties his knot in fun, unique ways rather than just doing like a classic double Windsor. Sorry, I'm going to pick up Winston. Hi, buddy. Say hi. So he, in the letter we sent out, so before the wedding, we actually sent out a letter with all the color samples and all the information, like the schedule, everything. We have a whole letter that we sent out so that everyone who was involved would know what was going on. Oh, she's so cute. Here. That's my niece holding the flowers. There's a whole series of photos like this where she's just so cute and so proud of herself. This one's actually a really good photo of the bouquet. Let's see here. I'm trying to kind of group photos a little bit. However, one of my brothers decided that that was his fun knot. Just a terrible bow tie, which was not what we intended. But at least he did a funny knot. One of our brother-in-laws just didn't tie his tie at all. Just had it draped over his neck. And then everyone else just did a classic double Windsor, which was really annoying. Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. But it was one of those things where I was like, we asked you guys to do this thing because it would be fun, and you didn't even do it. Like, so I was annoyed. But, and then we didn't do like bridesmaids dresses because obviously I didn't do classic bridesmaids, or we didn't do any of the classic wedding party stuff. What we did do is when we sent out that letter, we had color samples for in each of the letters. And then we asked all the women and the girls to try and find something that sort of matched one of those color samples. A dress, a skirt. And we encouraged them to just look in their wardrobe or get something that's inexpensive. All right, so there's my niece holding on to me. Just being so cute. I also made, let's see if I can do this. I made the boutonnieres. I don't know if you can see that. So that's my mother wearing her boutonniere with the youngest niece at that point, who had given up on her hair flower. I think it was actually on the niece that was holding on to me the whole night. I think it was actually on her wrist was this other niece's hair flower. trying to kind of make, the pages are kind of going in order, but I'm also trying to group them by like type of photo-ish. Okay. That'll work. This is, so I can do 6 photos on a spread on each page, and I have 6 photos of that niece hanging on to me. So that works. Now let's go with these ones over here. There was one point that during the reception where I was just tired and overwhelmed and kind of just wanted to be done, where I forgot that it was my reception. So I disappeared. There was a room set up for all the little kids to go to, so that way they weren't just causing ruckus. It was somewhere for them to go and get away from the adults and be able to have some fun and not get bored and cause issues. But we loved having kids there. That was fine. It was just somewhere for them to go where they could mess around and run around and play with toys and be fine. Okay, so that's those 3. This was the wedding or the table toppers that my sister made. They were very cute. They were, so she actually has a degree in like event planning. So she had like a whole bunch of stuff that she already had. But so there were little glass mirror circles, little glass bowls, and blue and green, like the glass rocks with little bouquets in them that my sister made. Yeah, I had no idea what the centerpieces were going to look like. I had no clue. I gave her free reign. I was like, can you please take care of this part? And she did. And I had no idea what it was going to look like. I had no idea. Honestly, it's a great way to take some of the stress off yourself. My mom says that in the background, like, things were insane and like there was some really stressful stuff going on, but I didn't know about it. And honestly, I had basically planned everything as much as I physically could. Like I planned so much. Every time my mom was like, do you need help with this or with that? I already did it. Hello. Random photo. I don't know why every once in a while there's just a random photo that is not in order. I don't understand. Let's go with the flower toss. So there's me doing the toss. So my mother-in-law did make like a smaller bouquet to do a toss. We did not do a garter. My husband and I very early on decided that was awkward and weird and we didn't want to do it. So we didn't. I'm going to try and be clever. Where I have 2 photos, one of me throwing it and one of the flowers in the air. And if I line them up right, it looks like I'm tossing it from one picture to the other. So I'm going to do one on one page and one on the other. So it looks like, I don't know that anyone will ever notice other than me, but I can just about guarantee my husband won't notice if he ever even looks through this. But I think it's going to be clever. I think it's cute. Okay, so there's that. And then now for the photos of the niece that caught the flowers. So there's this really nice photo of my niece that caught the flowers. She's holding it. She's looking very cute and pretty. And then you see eyes of a little boy at the bottom of the photo, just I don't know if the little boy is her little brother or if it was one of her cousins. I don't know, but it's really funny. That's really funny. See, it's just this random photo of, you just see this little boy peeking up at the bottom of the photo. So funny. All right, that is all the photos, I think, from the Utah reception. And I got that done in just over an hour. Probably would have gone faster if I hadn't been talking and kept getting distracted, but. And that is that many pages, and I still have, it looks like I've gone through half the pages, but I actually haven't, because these ones are just triple thick now. You can kind of see that these ones are more spaced because they have photos in them now. So according to the front of the album, where it says that it can fit X amount of photos, it says it can fit 300 photos. And I have 200. So theoretically, it should fit all of our photos just fine. So that's the photo album. I don't know that I really have any other photos that I can show you guys. So this was one of the photos that we took outside the temple with all the flowers in the background. We thought it was really pretty and it matched our theme, but also we intentionally did it so we could create thank you cards. And so these are what we sent out to everybody. And I took these and I glued them onto colored pieces of cardstock. And so they kind of had a border around them of the colored cardstock. But then on the back, I was able to write my note of thank you for whatever gift or thank you for this service. And then I put them in envelopes and mailed them off. They were individualized. They were cute. They worked great. Something else that we did was we got stamps. I got a whole stamp set that was able to be personalized, like it was the individual letters. And then I used those stamps to stamp the address on the front of the card, which this is an old address, but I still don't feel like showing it. It feels weird. And then I also had decorative ones that I was able to do a stamp on the back. So I didn't have to handwrite all of the letters, or all the addresses. I stamped them, all like 150 or 200 of them that I had to do. I hand stamped them. All of the invites, all of the thank you cards, all of it was hand stamped. And then all of the mailing labels were printed onto stickers. It was very simple. Sorry, I'm trying to cover up the actual date. So that was the back of our invite. My mom actually took our invite photos. We did things on the very cheap side, like the inexpensive, not necessarily cheap. And then we sent the photos off to a cousin of mine who's a graphic designer, and she designed all of our invite slips and notes, and her designing those was kind of her gift, and then we paid for all of the stuff. Like I don't know if we paid her. I don't think we did. I know we offered to. I don't remember, but she designed these for us, and so they look great. And because she is a graphic designer, she knew people that she could go to and ask for, or she knew where to go to for professional printing. And yeah, it was just, I just realized I missed 3 photos from the Utah reception. One thing that they did, they being my siblings who helped set up the reception hall, was they put out a huge roll of paper, and they covered a couple tables with this huge roll, where everybody could leave a drawing or a note. And mostly it's kids' doodles, but it's cute. And then there's this one drawing. This is of another one of the temples. This one is called the Winter Quarters Temple. And this is actually the one that's in Omaha, which is where I grew up. Thing is that I don't know those initials. I don't know who that is. And it could be one of my siblings, could be an aunt or an uncle. I have no idea. I don't know who that is. I don't know. So if any of my siblings or anyone else that was there at the reception knows who that is, please let me know. I would love to be able to actually label this drawing, because I don't know. And I still have this roll of drawings given to me. Also, I didn't know they were doing this either. My little sister, who did the flowers and did a lot of the stuff, she also took crayons and she printed out little papers that instead of saying like Crayola, they said Wolston, my last name, or my new last name, my married name, on it to make it look like it was a Crayola crayon, but it was our last name instead. And she taped that onto dozens of crayons. I didn't tell her to do that. It wasn't my idea. It was hers. And that was what they drew on this paper with. And eventually I think it was a couple of years later, like my sister still had a bunch of these crayons for her kids that still had like those papers on them. And she let me have some for my memory box from our wedding, because I didn't remember. Yeah, I didn't know that was, I didn't know that happened. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you for putting up with the fact that I wasn't actually talking about Etsy stuff. I was working on my photo album. I still have a lot of photos to do, and I still need to label them and identify people, and still a lot of work that needs to go into it. But I'm just about ready to order my actual photo books, which will be going to grandparents for Christmas. 5 years isn't too late, right? Thank you guys for being here. In the link haven down below, the description, there's links to my Etsy page, my Instagram, Facebook, to an interview I did with a local magazine about being a local entrepreneur. That's Voyage STL magazine. There's a couple of links to some of my church's stuff. So there's one that'll just take you to my church's website if you'd like to know a little bit more about what it is I believe and about the temples and why we do what we do. There's also, I'm sorry, I'm really shaking the camera because it's sitting on the table. And then there's also a link to a YouTube video that has just a whole bunch of uplifting messages from my church leaders. They're full of joy and hope and peace and just full of love. They're from beginning of October of this year. So they're very recent messages to the world. Thank you again for joining me. Hopefully next week I will be set up to be able to do some more actual Etsy stuff. I've been trying to do premieres, which is where I film everything first with my phone, so you can actually get like a top-down look, and then posting them. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the premieres versus the live stream. My sister said she likes the premieres because it makes her feel less guilty about missing the actual the actual live stream. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. Feel free to ask me any questions about my Etsy shop, what I'm selling, what I'm planning to do over the next year. If you have any questions about any of my wedding stories, or if you're curious what I did for specific common practices for weddings, I would love to answer your questions. Because I didn't focus on like one part of my wedding, and I was jumping around. I have so many stories, and there's just so much. I can't possibly just like follow a single train of thought. For those of you who've been here since the beginning of the live stream, you know that just trying to get the timeline, I couldn't keep a straight line. But thank you guys for being patient and being here in spite of the fact that this isn't actually an Etsy live stream. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to any new subscribers. I really appreciate your support. Once I get 50 subscribers, I can actually do my live streams from my phone like I've been doing the premieres. And that would be very helpful and very fancy. I don't know. It'd be nice. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Also, let me know how you guys feel about this noon time versus the 8 a.m. time. I think I like the noon time better, but if it works better for you guys at 8 a.m., I can do that. I don't do the evenings because that's when my husband's home, and I don't get very much time with my husband. So husbands are for him. Husbands are for him. Evenings are for the time I get to spend with my husband. I swear I know how to speak. So, okay. Thank you for being here, and I hope I will see you guys next week in the next live stream, and maybe sooner if I get a video posted. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.